My daughter changed her last name to her stepdad's name. I found out at her wedding, so I'm Ruby 55, and I've always considered being a mother the greatest blessing of my life. After my divorce, I poured everything into raising my daughter Lily alone for 12 years before finding love again. The wedding invitation should have been a moment of pure joy, but instead it revealed a secret that shattered my heart. How could my daughter, the one I'd sacrificed everything for, hide something so fundamental from me? Before I share how my world collapsed at what should have been our happiest moment, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt blindsided by someone you loved unconditionally. I grew up in a small coastal town in Maine where family values and traditions were deeply ingrained in our daily lives. My parents raised me to believe that family was sacred, something you fought for through thick and thin. Those values shaped me into the person I am today, and I carried them into my adult life with unwavering conviction. During my sophomore year of college, I met Thomas Wilson at a mutual friend's party. He was charming, ambitious, and had the kind of smile that could light up a room. We connected instantly over our shared love of classic movies and dreams of building a stable, loving family. Our romance was a whirlwind, 6 months of dating, and we were already planning our future together. We married right after graduation, both 22 and full of optimism. The early years were beautiful. I began my career as a nurse at the local hospital, while Thomas pursued his business degree. We bought a small starter home, planted a garden, and spent weekends hiking nearby trails. Those simple days felt perfect, just us against the world building our little kingdom. When I was 27, we welcomed Lily into our lives. The moment I held her in my arms, I knew I'd never experienced love like this before. She had Thomas's dark hair and my green eyes, the perfect blend of us both. Those first years of Lily's life were exhausting but magical. Thomas would come home from work and immediately take her from my tired arms, dancing around the living room while she giggled. We were a team, then united in our love for this precious little person. The cracks in our marriage appeared slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. Thomas began staying late at the office more frequently. Our conversations grew shorter, centering mostly around Lily and household logistics. When I tried to discuss our relationship, Thomas would dismiss my concerns, claiming work stress or fatigue. I told myself this was normal, just a phase all marriages go through when raising young children. Lily had just turned 6 when my world imploded. Thomas had left his email open on our shared computer. I wasn't snooping. I simply needed to print a document for Lily's school. That's when I saw the messages between him and Jessica, his administrative assistant. The emails detailed their 8-month affair and their plans for a future together. Some messages even discussed how they would eventually tell Lily about their relationship. Confronting Thomas was one of the hardest moments of my life. He didn't deny it. Instead, he admitted he hadn't loved me that way for years, but stayed for Lily. He said Jessica understood him in ways I never could. Those words cut deeper than the affair itself. The idea that our 12 years together had meant so little to him. The divorce was brutal. I expected Thomas to fight for joint custody, but to my shock, he barely pushed for visitation rights. He agreed to pay child support, but made it clear his new life with Jessica was his priority. Within 6 months of our divorce, Thomas and Jessica were married. Within a year, they were expecting their own child. Suddenly, at 33, I was a single mother with a confused and heartbroken 6-year-old. I took on extra shifts at the hospital to make ends meet, often working nights, so I could be present for Lily's school events during the day. Sleep became a luxury I rarely enjoyed. My social life disappeared entirely. Friends eventually stopped inviting me places, knowing I'd decline due to childcare responsibilities or exhaustion. Lily's confusion during this time broke my heart repeatedly. Every Friday, she would pack her little backpack for weekend visits with her father. In the beginning, Thomas would show up regularly, taking her to the zoo or movies. But gradually, Those visits became less frequent. He'd cancel last minute due to work emergencies or plans with his new family. I'd watch Lily sit by the window, backpack ready, waiting for a father who increasingly didn't show up. She would ask me questions I couldn't answer. Doesn't Daddy want to see me? Or did I do something wrong? I never spoke ill of Thomas to Lily, believing a child deserves to love both parents without burden. Instead, I made excuses, Daddy's just very busy with work, or sometimes adults have complicated schedules. As Thomas's presence in Lily's life diminished, I compensated by working harder to give her everything she needed. I never wanted her to feel the void he left behind. We couldn't afford extravagant vacations, but I found free community events, taught her to bake, and created special mum and daughter traditions. Despite our limited resources, I made sure Lily participated in school activities she enjoyed, saving for months to buy her first clarinet, staying up late to help with science projects. Through it all, Lily thrived academically. She was a bright, curious child who loved reading and mathematics. Every parent-teacher conference filled me with immense pride as teachers praised not just her intelligence, but her kindness toward others. Watching her grow into a thoughtful, resilient young person, despite our challenges, became my greatest joy. There were difficult nights when, after putting Lily to bed, I'd allow myself to cry quietly in the shower, the only place I could release the pressure of single parenthood without worrying her. But by morning I'd put on a brave face again, determined to show Lily that we could handle whatever life threw our way. Those years taught me strength I never knew I possessed. Every decision I made, every sacrifice was guided by one principle: Lily's well-being came first. I believed that by giving her stability and unconditional love, I could minimize the damage of her father's absence. Little did I know that my efforts to shield her would eventually create a different kind of wound between us. 8 years passed, as a single mother, before love found me again. I met Michael Anderson at the hospital where I worked when Lily was 14. He was visiting his mother after her surgery, and we literally bumped into each other in the cafeteria, sending my coffee splashing across both our shirts. Instead of being annoyed, he laughed and insisted on buying me a replacement. That small act of kindness led to a conversation that lasted until my break ended. Michael was different from Thomas in every way that mattered. Where Thomas had been charming but ultimately self-centered, Michael was genuine and considerate. He owned a successful construction company but spoke about his work with humility. Like me, he was divorced but without children. His ex-wife had wanted a different life, one that didn't include building a family. When Michael asked for my number, I hesitated. Dating as a single mother to a teenager felt complicated. Lily had been the center of my universe for so long that bringing someone new into our carefully balanced life seemed risky, but something about Michael's patient smile convinced me to take a chance. Our first few dates were conventional: dinners and movies while Lily stayed with a friend. I was upfront about my priorities from the beginning. My daughter comes first, I told him during our second date. That will never change. Michael didn't seem intimidated by this declaration. Instead, he asked thoughtful questions about Lily, her interests, her personality, her dreams. When I finally introduced them 3 months later, Lily was icily polite. She answered Michael's questions with minimal words and excused herself to her room as soon as dinner ended. Later that night, she confronted me. "Are you trying to replace Dad?" The question stunned me. Despite Thomas's near-complete absence from her life, he'd missed her last 2 birthdays and rarely called, she still maintained a fierce loyalty to him, or perhaps to the idea of him. "No one could ever replace your father," I assured her. "Michael is just someone special in my life, and I hoped he could be a friend to you too." Michael understood Lily's resistance and never pushed. He'd bring small, thoughtful gifts related to her interests: a book about marine biology, when she mentioned an oceanography project, tickets to a concert for her favourite band. He attended her school performances, but sat separately from me when she requested it. His patience was remarkable. Gradually, Lily's walls began to lower. The breakthrough came when her science project, a complex ecosystem model, collapsed the night before presentation day. I was working a night shift, and in desperation, Lily called Michael. He arrived with supplies and stayed until midnight, helping her rebuild it. When I came home at dawn, I found them both asleep on the couch, the completed project drying on our kitchen table. After that night, something shifted. Lily started including Michael in conversations, asking his advice on school matters, even joking with him. When he proposed to me a year later, Lily was surprisingly supportive. "He's good for you, Mum," she said. "You smile more when he's around." Our wedding was small and intimate, with 16-year-old Lily as my bridesmaid. Thomas was invited, but sent a generic gift card with his regrets. Michael's family welcomed us warmly, especially his parents, who immediately treated Lily like a granddaughter. His sister Jennifer had daughters close to Lily's age, and they quickly formed bonds that resembled cousins more than step relations. Moving into Michael's house, larger and in a better school district than our apartment, required adjustments. Lily was initially hesitant about changing schools for her junior year, but the prospect of having her own bathroom and a larger bedroom eased the transition. Michael had transformed the third bedroom into a study space for Lily before we moved in complete with a new desk and bookshelves. That thoughtfulness touched both of us deeply. Despite our improving finances with Michael's income alongside mine, I maintained fierce independence regarding Lily's expenses. When Michael offered to contribute to her college fund, I initially refused. "She's my responsibility," I insisted. This became our only source of tension, with Michael arguing, "We're a family now, let me help." Eventually, we compromised. I would continue handling Lily's day-to-day expenses, but we would jointly contribute to her education fund. Throughout this time, Thomas's presence in Lily's life continued to diminish. He'd moved to Seattle with Jessica and their 2 young children, making visits practically non-existent. Phone calls became rare, often only on birthdays or holidays. When Lily's high school graduation approached, Thomas promised to attend. She was cautiously excited, spending hours choosing the perfect outfit, imagining the rare moment of having both her parents witness her achievement. The day before graduation, Thomas called with news of a business emergency that prevented his travel. I watched Lily's face crumple before she masked her disappointment with practiced stoicism. "It's fine," she said flatly. "I'm used to it." That evening, Michael knocked on her bedroom door with a small gift box. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a pendant shaped like a star. "Your mum tells me you're going to be valedictorian tomorrow," he said. "I wanted you to have something to mark how proud we are." The genuine care in that gesture moved Lily to tears, the emotions she'd refused to show over her father's cancellation. At graduation, Michael cheered the loudest when Lily's name was called. He took countless photos, bragged to strangers about her scholarship to Northwestern University, and arranged a surprise dinner with her closest friends afterward. I watched their interaction with complex emotions, gratitude for his presence in our lives, mixed with a strange sense of loss. The father-daughter relationship developing between them highlighted everything Thomas had willingly abandoned. When college move-in day arrived, Michael rented a truck for Lily's belongings and drove the 3 hours to campus. He assembled her furniture while I organized her dorm supplies, both of us trying not to hover too much. Before leaving, Michael handed Lily an emergency credit card and his business card. "Call any time, day or night," he told her. "Nothing is too small or too big." On our drive home, I cried for the milestone and the changing dynamics of our family. Michael reached for my hand across the console. "She's going to be amazing," he said. "You raised her to be strong and independent." His words were comforting, but I couldn't shake the awareness that something fundamental was shifting between all of us. Lily's college years brought subtle but significant changes to our relationship. During her freshman year, she called daily, sharing details about classes, new friends, and dormitory drama. By sophomore year, those calls became weekly, then occasionally skipped altogether. This natural separation was expected, but it coincided with noticeable shifts in her behavior during visits home. I first noticed it during Thanksgiving break. Lily spent most of the holiday on her phone having secretive conversations in another room. When I asked who she was talking to so frequently, she casually mentioned just friends before changing the subject. At dinner, she directed most of her conversation toward Michael, discussing business concepts she was learning in her economics major, asking his advice about internship applications. That Christmas, Lily asked if we could spend the holiday with Michael's family, rather than having our traditional quiet celebration at home. His parents have that big house in Vermont, and Jennifer's kids will be there, she reasoned. It would be more festive. The request made practical sense, but it marked another departure from the traditions we'd built during our years alone together. At Michael's family gathering, I watched with mixed emotions as Lily integrated seamlessly into his extended family. She helped his mother in the kitchen, played board games with his nieces, and engaged his father in lengthy discussions about politics. She even had inside jokes with Michael's brother that predated this visit, evidence of connections forming outside my awareness. "When did Lily get so close with your family?" I asked Michael that night. "She's been texting with Mum about recipes," he replied, "and she called Dad a few times for advice about a paper on economic policy. They just clicked." During Lily's junior year, Michael helped secure her an internship at his friend's investment firm. While I was proud of her accomplishment, a small voice whispered that Thomas should have been the one opening these doors for his daughter. Instead, Michael was fulfilling that role with genuine enthusiasm. He drove Lily to her internship interview, helped her shop for appropriate business attire, and celebrated her acceptance with an elaborate dinner. It was during this period that I first heard Lily refer to Michael as Dad. We were having Sunday dinner and she was describing a challenging professor. "That's like when Dad had that difficult client last year," she said, casually glancing at Michael. Neither of them seemed to register the significance of that word choice, continuing their conversation while I sat frozen fork midair. Later, when Lily returned to school, I brought it up with Michael. "She called you Dad today." "She's done it a few times," he admitted. "I never corrected her because it seemed important to her." "Does it bother you?" I asked. "Not at all. I'm honored, actually." His sincerity was evident. "But if it makes you uncomfortable—" "It's not that," I interrupted. "I just worry about erasing her history. Thomas may be absent, but he's still her father." Michael took my hand. "She knows who her biological father is, Ruby. That fact isn't changing, but maybe she needs to define family her own way now." My feelings were complicated. I felt immense gratitude for Michael's love for Lily, yet protective of the connection to her roots. Thomas had essentially abandoned her, but I still maintained a collection of photos from Lily's childhood that included him still occasionally mentioned positive memories from before our divorce. I believed Lily deserved to know she came from something good, even if it hadn't lasted. Meanwhile, Thomas had completely dropped contact. He didn't call on Lily's 20th birthday. The child support checks continued automatically until she turned 18, but beyond that financial obligation, he seemed to have forgotten her existence. Despite my efforts to soften this reality for Lily's sake, her resentment toward him grew palpable. "Why do you still defend him?" she asked once after I mentioned a funny story from before our divorce. "He clearly doesn't care about us." "He's still part of your history," I replied gently. "And people are complicated, Lily. His failings don't erase the fact that he gave me you the greatest gift of my life." She rolled her eyes in typical young adult fashion, but I continued maintaining this balanced narrative, believing it healthier than allowing her to build her identity around paternal abandonment. By senior year, Michael had attended every parent weekend at Northwestern. He knew Lily's roommates, her favourite campus coffee spot, and her academic advisors. When graduation approached, there was no question of Thomas attending. Neither Lily nor I bothered contacting him. Instead, Michael sat proudly beside me, cheering loudly as Lily received her diploma with honours. After the ceremony, I found a thank you card in Lily's handwriting among the gifts. It was addressed to Michael, to the father I deserved. Thank you for showing me what real love and support look like. I placed it back without mentioning I'd seen it, respecting the private nature of their relationship. Lily's first job after college brought her to Chicago, only an hour from our home. During weekend visits, I noticed her growing independence. She had her own apartment, a burgeoning career in finance, and a confident presence that made me proud. She and Michael frequently discussed investment strategies and property values, their professional commonalities, creating bonds I couldn't quite share with my nursing background. About 2 years after her graduation, Lily brought home James Peters, introducing him as her boyfriend. James was thoughtful and articulate, working as an architect with a firm in Chicago. What struck me immediately was how he and Michael connected spending hours, discussing construction techniques and business development. Their instant rapport seemed to please Lily immensely. When Lily announced their engagement 6 months later, I was overjoyed but not surprised. James fit perfectly into our family dynamics, respecting me while clearly admiring Michael. During early wedding planning conversations, I eagerly offered to help with all the traditional mother-of-the-bride duties. "We should look at venues next month," I suggested, "and we can go dress shopping whenever you're ready." Lily nodded, but then added casually, "I already asked Michael to walk me down the aisle." She said it matter-of-factly, as though it were the most natural decision in the world. "Of course," I responded, swallowing my surprise. "He'll be honoured." I didn't mention contacting Thomas, understanding without asking that he wasn't part of her vision for this important day. Yet a small part of me mourned what should have been, a father who earned the right to walk his daughter down the aisle. Through years of love and presence, not one who stepped in midway through her life, however wonderfully. This was the first clear sign of what was coming, though I didn't recognize it then. Looking back, I should have seen how Lily was reconstructing her narrative, quietly, reshaping her identity in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. The months leading up to Lily's wedding were a whirlwind of activity. We secured a beautiful venue overlooking Lake Michigan, consulted with caterers, and interviewed photographers. I took 3 weeks of vacation time from the hospital to help with preparations, treasuring what I believed were precious mother-daughter moments. Shopping for her wedding dress was especially meaningful. Lily tried on 7 gowns before finding the one, a classic A-line with delicate lace detailing that brought tears to my eyes. As she stood on the boutique platform surrounded by mirrors, I remembered the little girl who used to wrap herself in my scarves, pretending to be a princess. "You're the most beautiful bride," I told her, my voice catching. "Thanks to you, Mum," she replied, squeezing my hand. "For everything." Those words warmed my heart, reinforcing my belief that despite the growing bond between Lily and Michael, our mother-daughter connection remained sacred and unshakable. Michael contributed generously to the wedding budget, something I initially resisted, but eventually accepted as his desire to give Lily a dream celebration. "She's as much my daughter as yours now," he reminded me gently. The statement pleased me at the time, evidence of how successfully we'd blended our family. As the wedding date approached, I noticed Lily and Michael having frequent private conversations that would halt when I entered the room. I assumed they were planning a surprise for me, or discussing financial details they thought might worry me unnecessarily. Never did I suspect the truth behind these secretive exchanges. When it came time to prepare the invitations, I naturally asked to review them before they were sent to the printer. "I'd love to check everything over," I offered, "just to make sure all the details are correct. The wedding planner's handling it," Lily replied dismissively. Everything's under control. Each time I brought up the invitations in subsequent conversations, Lily found reasons to change the subject or assured me they were being managed professionally. Eventually, I stopped asking, not wanting to seem controlling during what should be her special time. Instead of previewing the invitations, as I'd hoped, I received mine in the mail, like any other guest. Opening the elegant cream envelope, I expected the usual formal wording announcing the marriage of Lily Wilson to James Peters. Instead, the elegant script read, "Together with their parents, Lily Anderson and James Peters request the honour of your presence." I stared at the name, Lily Anderson, certain it was a printing error. Michael's surname was Anderson, not Lily's. She had always been Lily Wilson, carrying her father's name despite his absence from her life. I immediately called her confused and concerned about the mistake that would need correction before the other invitations were mailed. "Lily, I just got the invitation. There's a problem with your name." There was a pause before she responded, her tone deliberately casual. "No, there's no problem. That's my name. But your last name is Wilson," I said slowly. "We can talk about it at the rehearsal dinner, Mum. I'm heading into a meeting." She ended the call before I could press further, leaving me staring at the invitation in bewilderment. Over the following weeks, anxiety built within me. I tried calling Lily several times to discuss the invitation, but she always had reasons to keep our conversations brief. Work deadlines, appointments with vendors, dinner plans with James. The distance between us grew palpable, intensifying my unease about what the invitation implied. The morning of the rehearsal dinner, I arrived at the hotel venue early to help with preparations. Entering the reception hall, I froze at the sight of the place cards being arranged on a welcome table. Each card displayed the name Anderson for Lily's side of the family, not just for Michael's relatives, but for Lily herself. It wasn't a printing error, it was deliberate. I found Lily in the bridal suite, surrounded by bridesmaids, as they discussed the next day's timeline. Asking for a moment alone, I closed the door behind her friends and held up the invitation I'd carried in my purse for weeks. "Lily, I need to understand what's happening with your name." She sighed as though dealing with an unnecessary complication. "I legally changed my name 2 years ago, Mum." "I thought you might have figured it out by now." The casual revelation stunned me. 2 years. You've been Lily Anderson for 2 years and never told me. She shrugged, checking her reflection in the mirror rather than meeting my eyes. "It wasn't a big deal. I wanted Michael's name, so I took it. People change their names all the time. But why not tell me I'm your mother? Because I knew you'd make it about you or about Thomas." Her tone hardened slightly. "I took the best name for myself, and you have no right to complain. Michael is more my father than Thomas ever was." The words cut deep, but I maintained composure, aware of the celebration surrounding us. "I understand you're closer to Michael. I've always supported that relationship. But this feels like you're erasing part of your history, our history, without even discussing it with me." "There's nothing to discuss. It's done." Lily turned to face me finally. "I need you to be happy for me, Mum. Tomorrow is my wedding day." I nodded numbly, promising to be present and supportive for the rehearsal. Somehow, I made it through dinner smiling appropriately during toasts and making polite conversation with James's family. Inside, though, I felt shattered by the realization that Lily had made such a significant life change without including me. That night in my hotel room, I barely slept, replaying our conversation and wondering what other aspects of her life Lily had reconstructed without my knowledge. The name change itself wasn't what hurt most. It was the secrecy, the deliberate exclusion from a decision that symbolically severed her connection to our shared past. Morning came too quickly, bringing with it the forced brightness of wedding day preparations. I arrived at the venue with my hair and makeup supplies, determined to fulfill my mother of the bride duties, regardless of my emotional turmoil. Lily seemed to have forgotten our confrontation, entirely chattering about the perfect weather and the flowers that had just arrived. As I helped Lily with her makeup, I caught bridesmaids exchanging glances when I used Wilson while telling a childhood story. The realization hit me. Everyone knew about her name change except me. I had been the only one kept in the dark, a humiliation that burned beneath my carefully maintained smile. When the time came for the ceremony, I took my seat alone in the front row, watching as Michael prepared to walk my daughter, now officially his namesake, down the aisle. The traditional wedding march began, and Lily appeared radiant in the dress we had chosen together. Despite my inner turmoil, I felt a surge of maternal pride seeing her happiness in that moment. The ceremony proceeded beautifully. Lily and James exchanged heartfelt vows they had written themselves. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the crowd erupted in applause. I clapped along, compartmentalizing my hurt to celebrate my daughter's special day. It was during the reception that things became unbearable. The DJ introduced Mr. and Mrs. Peters as they entered, followed by the proud parents of the bride, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson. No mention of my individual identity or role as Lily's mother for 24 years before Michael entered our lives. Then came the toasts. Michael stood, glass raised, delivering an emotional father of the bride speech about watching Lily grow from a guarded teenager into the accomplished woman before us. He spoke of his pride in her achievements, the joy of having her take his name, and his happiness in gaining James as a son. His only acknowledgement of my role was a brief thanks to Ruby for raising such a wonderful daughter before I was lucky enough to join your lives. Throughout the reception, I noticed James's relatives referring to Michael and Lily as though their relationship was biological. She has your smile, one elderly aunt told Michael, who didn't correct the assumption. The Anderson family resemblance is strong, commented another guest, despite the absence of any genetic connection. The final breaking point came during Lily's speech. She thanked her friends, James's family, and finally turned to Michael. To my dad, Michael Anderson, for being the greatest father anyone could ask for. You stepped in when I needed guidance and never once made me feel like I wasn't truly your daughter. Taking your name was the easiest decision of my life. Not once during her speech did she acknowledge the years I'd spent raising her alone, the midnight fever's homework help financial sacrifices, or emotional support through her father's abandonment. In that moment, it felt as though Lily had revised our entire history, writing me into a smaller role while elevating Michael to heroic status. I quietly slipped away to the bathroom, needing a moment alone to compose myself. Lily followed, finding me dabbing at tears I couldn't contain. "Mum, what's wrong? Why did you leave the table?" The question broke something inside me. How can you ask me that? You changed your name without telling me. You've rewritten our entire history as though the years before Michael were insignificant. That's not true, she protested, but her expression lacked conviction. I sacrificed everything for you, Lily. Everything. I worked double shifts to keep you in good schools. I went without so you could have opportunities. I never dated until you were old enough because you were my priority. And now it feels like none of that matters to you. Lily's expression hardened. You have no right to complain. You chose Michael. You brought him into our lives. And now you're jealous that I love him as my father. I'm not jealous of your relationship with Michael. I've always encouraged it, but I am hurt that you would make such a significant change without even discussing it with me, as if my feelings and our history together meant nothing. You always tried to keep Thomas relevant when he clearly didn't want to be, Lily countered, her voice rising slightly. Always making excuses for him preserving his place when he abandoned us. Maybe if you had let Michael be my real father sooner, I wouldn't have spent years feeling like I wasn't good enough for my biological dad to stick around. The accusation stunned me. All those years I'd thought I was protecting Lily by maintaining a connection to her roots, she had interpreted as preventing her from fully embracing the parent who actually wanted her. The gap in our perceptions felt unbridgeable in that moment. I need to go, I said quietly, gathering my purse. I can't do this right now. You're leaving my wedding. Lily's tone mixed disbelief with anger. I just need some air, some time to process. I moved past her toward the door. I love you, Lily. That will never change. But right now, I need to be alone. I walked out of the venue to my car, still wearing my mother of the bride outfit. Driving home alone, the tears finally came freely, years of sacrifice and devotion, seemingly discounted in a few careless moments. The daughter I thought I knew had transformed into someone who could exclude me from fundamental aspects of her identity. The pain of that realization cut deeper than any previous hurt in my life. The week following Lily's wedding passed in a fog of emotional numbness. I called in sick to the hospital using accumulated vacation days to avoid facing colleagues who would inevitably ask about the celebration. How could I explain that my daughter had legally taken her stepfather's name years ago without telling me, then ambushed me with the revelation at her wedding? Michael tried reaching out several times, calling and texting with increasing concern. I responded with brief assurances that I needed space, unable to face him when my feelings were so raw. I couldn't separate my hurt over Lily's actions from his role in keeping her secret. Had they conspired together, laughing at my ignorance? The thought tormented me, though my rational mind knew Michael would never intentionally hurt me. At home, I moved through rooms filled with memories, examining photos of Lily's childhood that now felt somehow fraudulent. Had she been wishing for a different father, a different family name all along? In one frame, 7-year-old Lily beamed proudly, holding a soccer trophy I'd saved for months to afford. In another, we made silly faces at her 16th birthday, just the two of us celebrating with a homemade cake before Michael entered our lives. Those photographs documented a history Lily seemed eager to erase. Years of just us against the world, building our tiny family unit through countless struggles and triumphs. Now she carried a different name, one that connected her to Michael's family tree but severed the visible link to her origins, to me. On my nightstand sat a Mother's Day card from years earlier, inscribed with words that now felt hollow. To the strongest woman I know, thanks for being both mum and dad when I needed it most. Had those sentiments been genuine, or merely what she thought I wanted to hear? After 14 days of self-imposed isolation, I finally agreed to meet Michael at a coffee shop halfway between our home and the hospital. He arrived before me, 2 cups already waiting at a corner table. The concern in his eyes was genuine, but it did little to ease the betrayal I felt. "Ruby, I've been so worried," he began, reaching for my hand across the table. I let him take it, though I couldn't return his squeeze. "How are you holding up? How long have you known about Lily's name change?" I asked directly, skipping pleasantries. Michael sighed, confirming my suspicions before he spoke. "She talked to me about it 3 years ago before she did it. She wanted my blessing. And you didn't think I deserved to know, to be part of that conversation. I told her she should discuss it with you," he insisted. "But she was afraid you'd try to talk her out of it, that you'd see it as a rejection of you somehow. So instead, you both decided to hide it from me for years, to let me find out through a wedding invitation." My voice remained low but intense. "Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? Everyone knew except me, Michael. Everyone." He looked genuinely remorseful. "I'm sorry, Ruby. Truly. I should have insisted she tell you, or told you myself, when it became clear she wouldn't. I got caught in the middle, wanting to respect her wishes, but knowing you deserved the truth." "What else don't I know?" I asked. "What other secrets are you two keeping from me?" "Nothing," he assured me. "This is the only thing, and for what it's worth, I understand why she did it." "Enlighten me," I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my tone. Michael leaned forward, his expression earnest. From Lily's perspective, Thomas abandoned her, not just physically by moving away, but emotionally by never making her a priority. She watched other kids with fathers who showed up, who were involved, who cared. Meanwhile, her own father couldn't be bothered to call on her birthday. I know Thomas failed her, I acknowledged. I lived it alongside her. Remember, I was the one comforting her every time he disappointed her. Yes, but you also kept making excuses for him, Michael said gently. Lily told me how you'd always find reasons for his absence, how you kept his photos around, how you never let her express the full extent of her anger toward him. I was trying to protect her. I didn't want her identity built around paternal rejection. I know that's what you intended, Michael replied. But to Lily, it felt like you were forcing her to maintain a connection to someone who didn't want one with her. Taking my name was her way of choosing her real family, the people who actually showed up for her. His words struck a painful chord. Had my efforts to preserve Lily's connection to her origins actually prevented her from healing? Had I inadvertently caused the very rift I now experienced with my daughter by insisting on a narrative that didn't match her lived experience? I need to process all this, I said, finally gathering my purse. I appreciate you meeting me, but I'm not ready to come home yet. Michael nodded, respecting my need for space. I love you, Ruby. We'll get through this. I wasn't so sure. The following weeks brought a painful clarity as I began therapy to address my sense of betrayal and loss. Dr. Winters, a compassionate woman in her 60s, asked questions that forced me to examine my role in the narrative Lily had rejected. Tell me about how you discussed Thomas with Lily as she grew up, she prompted during our second session. I never spoke ill of him, I explained. I believed children should be free to love both parents without carrying adult burdens. That's admirable, Dr. Winters noted, but did you allow Lily to express her own negative feelings about his absence? The question gave me pause. I suppose I always redirected those conversations. If she said she hated him for missing something important, I'd remind her that he loved her but had complicated adult problems. If she was angry about his broken promises, I'd find excuses, his work, his new family's needs. So you protected Thomas's image at the expense of validating Lily's emotional reality, the therapist observed. Put that way, my well-intentioned approach seemed fundamentally misguided. Through subsequent sessions, I began recognizing how I'd positioned myself as the martyr in our story, the mother who sacrificed everything while maintaining a dignified silence about her ex-husband's failings. This narrative had served my sense of moral superiority, but denied Lily the opportunity to process her actual experience. Meanwhile, communication with Lily remained minimal, brief group texts about practical matters, nothing addressing the wedding day confrontation. Michael served as an occasional intermediary, assuring me she was doing well, but giving me the space I'd requested. 3 months after the wedding, I returned to our old apartment building to clear out a storage unit I'd maintained there. Inside were boxes of Lily's childhood memorabilia I'd never transferred to Michael's house. Among them, I found my journals from the years immediately following my divorce. Reading those private entries was revelatory. I had documented Thomas's cancelled visits, unreturned calls, and broken promises in painstaking detail, information I'd sanitized when discussing him with Lily. One entry from when she was 8 was particularly illuminating. Thomas cancelled again. 3rd missed weekend this month. Lily cried for hours, told her daddy had an important work emergency. The truth, Jessica's birthday party. How do I keep protecting him when he cares so little? The journals revealed a pattern I'd never fully acknowledged. I had systematically curated Lily's understanding of her father, presenting a version that bore little resemblance to reality. I had denied her the validation of her legitimate feelings of abandonment, while insisting she maintain an attachment to an idolized father who existed only in my careful revisions. Michael had been right. My intentions were good. I never wanted Lily to feel unwanted or define herself by her father's rejection. But in my determination to protect her, I'd prevented her from processing her actual experience and forming her own conclusions. With Thanksgiving approaching, Lily sent a text inviting Michael and me to dinner at her new home with James. "Nothing fancy, just the four of us," she wrote. "Let me know if you can make it." The invitation represented our first opportunity for reconciliation. After considerable reflection and several therapy sessions, I accepted, ready to approach our relationship with new understanding. The drive to Lily and James's new townhouse that Thanksgiving was tense. Michael offered to drive separately to give me an escape option if things became too difficult, but I insisted we arrive together. Whatever healing needed to happen, we would face it as a family. Their home was modestly elegant, reflecting Lily's tasteful decorating style and James's architectural sensibility. As they welcomed us at the door, I noticed Lily's nervous smile and the way she hesitated before hugging me, the physical embodiment of the emotional distance between us. Conversation during appetizers remained carefully superficial. James discussed his latest project, designing an eco-friendly office building. Michael shared updates about his company's expansion. Lily described challenges with her team at work. I contributed anecdotes about hospital colleagues, everyone avoiding the elephant in the room. The tension broke unexpectedly when I offered to help Lily in the kitchen. Alone together for the first time since the wedding, we moved awkwardly around each other, reaching for serving dishes and checking the turkey. "Your home is beautiful," I offered genuinely. "You've done a wonderful job with it." "Thanks," she replied, focusing intently on the gravy she was stirring. We closed on it just before the honeymoon. The mundane exchange somehow opened a door. Taking a deep breath, I set down the bowl I was holding and turned to face my daughter directly. "Lily, I need to say something. I'm hurt that you changed your name without telling me that you kept such an important decision secret for years. It felt like you were erasing our history together all those years when it was just us." She remained silent, still stirring, but I could see her blinking back tears. "But," I continued, "I've spent these months reflecting on why you might have felt you couldn't tell me. I realize now that I never gave you permission to fully express your feelings about Thomas's absence. I was so focused on protecting you from feeling abandoned that I denied your reality and your right to process it honestly." The wooden spoon in Lily's hand stilled. She kept her eyes on the gravy, but was clearly listening intently. "When you called Michael Dad and took his name, it felt like a rejection of me, of us. But I understand now, it wasn't about erasing your past. It was about embracing the family that actually showed up for you." Lily finally turned to face me, tears streaming now. "I never meant to hurt you, Mum. Taking Michael's name wasn't about diminishing what you did for me. It was about finally belonging somewhere completely." "I know that now," I acknowledged. "I found my old journals recently. Reading them showed me how much I sanitized Thomas's behavior when talking to you, how I never let you express your real feelings about his abandonment. I thought I was protecting you, but I was actually invalidating your experience." "You always made excuses for him," Lily said quietly. "Every time he disappointed me, you had a reason why I shouldn't be angry. It made me feel like my feelings were wrong, like I was ungrateful for not accepting whatever scraps of attention he offered." "I'm so sorry," I whispered, my own tears falling now. "I thought I was giving you the gift of being able to love both parents. Instead, I denied you the right to your own emotions." "When Michael came into our lives," Lily continued, "he actually showed up. Consistently, reliably, enthusiastically. He never made me feel like I was a burden or an obligation. He chose me Mum, and eventually I wanted to choose him back by taking his name." "I understand that now," I assured her. "I just wish you had felt you could tell me." "I was afraid you'd see it as a betrayal," she admitted. "That you'd think I was choosing Michael over you when really I was just choosing to define family my way." I reached for her hand. "You're an adult now. You have every right to define your identity on your own terms. I'm sorry if I made that difficult for you." Lily squeezed my hand in return. "And I'm sorry for how everything came out at the wedding. You deserved better than finding out that way." I was a coward for not telling you sooner. We both made mistakes, I acknowledged, but I'm hoping we can move forward now with more honesty between us. She nodded, wiping her tears with her free hand. I'd like that. When we carried the food to the dining room, Michael and James exchanged glances, clearly noticing our reddened eyes, but tactfully avoiding comment. As we settled around the table, Lily suggested we share what we were grateful for before eating. I'm grateful for second chances, I said when my turn came, looking directly at my daughter, and for the opportunity to build relationships based on truth rather than what we think others need to hear. Lily's smile contained equal parts sadness and hope. I'm grateful for family, not just the one we're born into, but the one we choose and build together. That Thanksgiving marked the beginning of a new chapter in our relationship. The hurt didn't disappear overnight, but honest conversation created a pathway toward healing that had been impossible in the shadow of unspoken truths. The Christmas holidays brought further opportunities for rebuilding. Rather than trying to recreate old traditions, we established new ones that honored both our history as mother and daughter and our expanded family with Michael and now James. Lily and I began having monthly lunch dates, just the two of us, creating space for the continued honest communication that was gradually restoring our connection. I also made efforts to reclaim parts of my identity beyond motherhood that I'd neglected during my years as a single parent. I reconnected with nursing school friends I'd lost touch with, joined a book club, and even took a photography class I'd been interested in for years. These activities helped balance my relationship with Lily, reducing the pressure I'd unconsciously placed on her to be the sole focus of my emotional life. The following spring, Lily called with news that brought our journey full circle. She was pregnant, expecting a baby girl in the fall. "We want you involved every step of the way, Mum," she told me. "This little girl is going to need her grandmother's wisdom." "I'd be honoured," I replied, feeling a fresh wave of emotion at this new chapter opening before us. When my granddaughter was born in October, the hospital room filled with our blended family, Michael and me, James and his parents, even Michael's sister Jennifer and her children. As I held that tiny new life, I marvelled at the complex journey that had brought us all to this moment. Lily had named her daughter Eleanor Ruby Peters, incorporating my name while establishing her own family tradition. The gesture spoke volumes about our healing relationship. Looking back now, a year after the wedding that nearly shattered our bond, I understand that motherhood has been my greatest teacher about the nature of love. True love isn't possession or control. It's nurturing another person's authentic self-expression even when their choices wouldn't be our own. It's supporting their right to define family and identity in ways that bring them wholeness, even when those definitions evolve beyond what we imagined. Lily taking Michael's name wasn't a rejection of me or our history together. It was her claiming the right to tell her own story, to honour the parent who showed up consistently in the ways she needed. My role as her mother wasn't diminished by this choice. It was transformed and ultimately strengthened through the painful but necessary honesty it eventually inspired between us. If you're watching this and struggling with family identity or blended family challenges, remember that love is capacious enough to hold multiple truths simultaneously. Children deserve both roots and wings, connection to their origins, and the freedom to define themselves beyond them. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give those we love is supporting their authentic self-expression, even when it differs from the narratives we've constructed. I'd love to hear your experiences with blended families or identity changes in the comments below. Has your family story evolved in ways you didn't expect? How have you navigated those changes? Please like this video if my story resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need to hear that family love can survive even the most painful transformations. Thank you for listening to my journey.